I think the next 10 years will be the most promising years this country has seen. And I say that's a little counterintuitive because you get a lot of negative folks, a lot of naysayers out there. But I think the decade that we're embarking on will be the decade of North America. You know, we've talked about the Pacific century. We talked about the China century. I've heard all of that. I've lived in Asia 4 times. I have a pretty good sense of where that region is going and what their next 10 years will be like. But we have a preferred marketplace. We're still 19% of the world's GDP. We still have a sense of innovation that's sort of a creativity that you don't find anywhere else in the world. So in a sense, we're still a frontier society. We're still looking west for the next big thing. And that isn't true in most other countries. And so where we might make mistakes and stumble and fall and create, deep recessions like we're just now getting out of, which we've seen for the last 7 years, which have been awful, we know how to fix our faults. And, Alexis de Tocqueville was famous for saying, America's a great country, not because their people are so great, but America is great because it has an ability to mend its wounds. It's no longer a feat of public service or a desire to put your country first before your party. We've kind of strayed from that. And I think that's driven by the professionalization of politics, which has crept up on us over the years. And that's then exacerbated by the huge amounts of single source dollars that are flowing into the system. And so you get to Congress, and not surprisingly, you pick a team. First, you're elected on a team. You're funded by all the predictable fundings. You're given all the predictable talking points. You win your election, you've got a team. So it isn't the name on the jersey anymore that matters. It's the color of the jersey. I think winners in any sector of life, and I've had the good fortune of seeing a lot of outstanding people during my career, they're driven by strong, consistent values that are mostly unshakable, that take them to wherever their destination happens to be. Having raised 7 kids, 2 of whom are adopted from overseas, so I have a Chinese daughter and I have an Indian daughter, so I've watched the cognitive development of kids in my own family. So it's like we've run our own experiment of sorts. Yeah. And exposure early on, which is to say before 5 or 6 years of age, to literacy and numeracy, I think is absolutely critical. So kids by a certain stage of mental or cognitive development, I think are pretty fixed, and you have to get there early. And I think our system gets there too late. And you can't catch a kid at age 8 or age 10, but rather well before that. So the cost for remediation, if we don't get kids early, is significant, and we pay a price. And in many cases, they never recover. They don't get that stimulation early on, and they go through their academic careers as incomplete students. The best negotiation was with my own kids. I found that the toughest negotiations have been around our kitchen table. Far more difficult than any negotiation with the legislature or the Chinese. And that's with your own kids. And the fact that our kids are in decent shape, aren't in rehab or prison, I take as a sign of negotiating success.